Now, for more on the crisis in Ukraine, let's bring in Ivan Eland. He's a senior fellow at the Independent Institute and director of its Center on Peace and Liberty. Ivan, thanks very much. I want to start by beginning. 25% of the population displaced. Now, soon this conflict's going to be a month long. How grim are the prospects right now for finding food and water in Ukraine? And what about humanitarian efforts?
Well, I think it depends on where you are. In Mariupol, they don't have any food, water, or electricity about what they had before, so, because it's all been shut down. The Russians are surrounding the city. In Kyiv, they still have food. And if you go to Lviv, life is pretty much normal so far, other than the few missiles that have hit near there. So I think it depends on where you are. The further you go west, of course, the less of a problem you have. But, you know, places like Mariupol are just, and Kharkiv are just not very well off right now.
Yeah, but even taking that into consideration, I think we've seen what's happening to Mariupol, basically just isolated, being inundated by attacks. But if food and aid even gets to Ukraine, how can it reach Kharkiv and Kyiv and other cities? Because they're basically strangled off as Russian forces begin to surround those areas.
Well, of course, there are gaps in the Russians' rear area, which is going to be a problem for them as the war goes forward. So there are ways to, you know, break down convoys and get, you know, some food in there. But I'm not going to say it's going to be you know, huge amounts. I think it is going to be a problem. I think there are going to have starvation and malnutrition, et cetera, unfortunately. And, you know, they can get supplies in there to some extent. The cities that are surrounded, even, they could probably get a little bit in there. But, you know, it's not going to be probably enough to keep most people, you know, sustenance for them to lead a good life or even a mediocre life. They're going to be scrapping for food. And then, of course, they have fuel shortages and it's still cold, et cetera.
Right. And also, as we get closer to spring, Ukraine and Russia are so critical for wheat, especially in Europe. And I can't imagine any kind of spring planting at this point. And we are now seeing reports of nationalism involving other countries, stocking up on foodstuffs instead of exporting them. What is the situation, and that's breadbasket of Europe, so to speak? How critical do you think wheat shortages are going to be moving forward in 2022?
Well, I think they're going to be, you know, fairly serious, but the price will go up. And of course, as you mentioned, when the price starts going up, people unfortunately start hoarding in other countries that don't need to be hoarding simply because the price goes up. But it's a natural human tendency. So I think that's going to exacerbate the price again. And of course, there are some areas of Ukraine that will probably be cultivated. The ones that the government there is encouraging people to go out and, you know, farm and that sort of thing. And do their normal operations, but some people are going to go, no, I don't want, you know, anything to do with this, and other people will try to be, you know, patriotic and grow food for the cause and that sort of thing. So it'll just depend, but I think there probably will be some cultivation, but it'll be restricted. And of course, Russia is also a major exporter of wheat, and their economy has been disrupted as well. So there could be problems, yes.
Talking about Russia's economy, albeit on a very trimmed-back fashion, its stock market reopened. A lot to hash out here. Russia's economy is simply in free fall. The sanctions, and then there's so many nations basically refusing to deal with Moscow, even those not involved in the sanctions. The stranglehold on Russia is intense right now. What do you predict is going to happen there? When will its citizens really start feeling this pinch?
Well, traditionally, when you put sanctions on, especially ones these severe, these were probably even more severe than the ones put on Saddam Hussein when he invaded Kuwait in 1990. And, you know, you can really hurt the economy. But sanctions, we have to keep in mind, are an economic means to a political end. And, of course, that's to get Putin to turn around and go home. But I think he's facing a military disaster that will eventually probably force him to do that, but it may be 10 years for that to happen. So I don't think we're going to see the sanctions alone get him to turn tail and go home, because he's got so much invested in this, and he is his image as a strong leader and pulling out is not good. And also, he really wants to restore, the old Russia, which the epicenter of ancient Russian culture is Kiev. The Rus started there, and so he's got a number of non-economic reasons for continuing. But on the other side, his invasion has stalled, and he may eventually have to, get some sort of a settlement.
Yeah, we'll just have to keep monitoring that. Ivan Eland, thank you very much for joining us. Senior Fellow at Independent Institute and Director of its Center on Peace and Liberty. Thank you.
Thank you.